Hello, you metal pilgrims, and welcome to yet another episode of our interview series. Today we gather all the trollhords, for we are joined by the frontman of the Finnish folk metal band Finntroll, Mathias Lillmåns. Mathias will be speaking about the band's latest release, Vredesvävd, the process behind it, why did it take 7 years to write this album, and much, much more. But as always, before we start, I'd like to take a moment and invite you to become part of the conversation and join the Metal Pilgrim community on YouTube, Instagram, or any other social media. To submit your questions for the future guests, stay tuned with the updates, and for more exclusive rock and metal content. Here you go. Hey Mathias, how's it going, man?
I'm good.
That's good to hear. Thanks for joining me, man, and finding time. I assume you're pretty busy with your new album and everything.
Well, yeah, it's been quite a lot, but it's actually calming down now once it's been released. So that's a bit better. It's a bit,
Yeah, makes
less
sense.
stressful right now. So yeah,
Makes sense. Are you actually in Finland at the moment?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm actually sitting home at my balcony right now because it's really good weather outside.
Nice.
So I'm enjoying the last, rays of sun before, we're getting snow and
Minus 20 or something.
yeah, exactly. At least.
Yeah. How is the situation over there with the COVID stuff and everything?
Well, here in my city, it's called actually Seinäjoki. It's a small city. We have actually been spared quite a lot. I don't think there was maybe 40 cases in the whole city.
Okay,
So it's been really good.
Right. So
And we have some, even some small gigs here now and then. And restaurants are open. It's actually pretty nice over here. The people are talking about the second wave, but it's not that bad over here. And it's more in in Helsinki and south of Finland that they are hit worst.
Yeah.
But
yeah, hopefully no second wave and all this stuff is going to be out, soon, and we'll get back to normal. I mean, we all pray for that, I guess. Yeah. But the big news, right? Obviously, you've released your, latest studio album these days, and here's the deal. I'll try to pronounce it, and then you make fun of me for not doing it right, okay?
All right.
So it is Vredesvävd.
That's actually really close. Vredesvävd, yeah.
Nice. Okay, so proficiency.
99%.
Proficiency in Swedish. I'll include this into my Facebook profile.
yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Skills, Swedish.
Yeah. But could you actually talk a bit about the creative process behind it? How did all of this come together?
Well, this time it was a really long process.
Yep.
We had a 7-year. I can't say 7-year break because we definitely were not on a break at any point. It was really long process, and we already started. I think the first riffs for this album were already in like 4 or 5 years ago. We already had something, but it wasn't. We weren't feeling it. It wasn't what we were looking for. It sounded like sort of a continuation of the Vredesvävd album, and it didn't really feel right. Like the right time for releasing that kind of album. So we sort of just continued touring for a little bit while more on the Vredesvävd album, and we did a 10-year anniversary of the Untitled album and tried to write something again. And it was still it was missing something. Finntroll always tries to sort of come up with a new twist or sort of like to reinvent ourselves on any album. And this time it was really, really hard. So we just decided, I think it was in 2016, 17 maybe, that we'd just, do festivals, do some, go to some places where we usually don't go, like South America, Asia, and stuff like that. And the material is going to come when it's going to come. And it was not actually until last year that exactly a little bit more than a year ago, I had some interviews, and the people were asking us when we're going to do a comeback. and I was like, all right, so people are sort of thinking that we are not existing anymore. So I just told the guys about what they said in those interviews, and asked if there's any chance, for a 2020 release that we really need to sit down and write, because otherwise, we're gonna be a band that plays five gigs every year, and people just coming for the hit songs, it will be some kind of band that you come see or like the nostalgic songs and then go away, blah blah blah. So we didn't really want to put ourselves in that situation. So I got a deadline from Century Media Records for a 2020 release, and we started working, and I think we did like 3 songs, and then it was like, whoa, yeah, this is what we want to do. It's been like this on all the albums, that when we get that red thread or that sort of like theme for the album or the musical twist that we want to, then it sort of writes itself afterwards. So after that 3rd song, everything sort of like opened up, and whoa, this is what we're going to do. And then we went back to change those old songs as well into something that fits this album, and like a little bit over a year, here we are.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense, and it looks like you guys taken a short, maybe a creative break rather than a break from being a band, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. It was more of of calming down with the with the touring, not quitting or taking a break. It was more like just to have some gigs now and then, so people actually so we have some news out there and actually keep the skills going,
Yeah. But what's crazy? You waited for 7 years to release an album, and then you release it during the time of the pandemic, when you cannot do the regular, album promotion routine.
Yeah, exactly. We are talking all the time about this Finntroll curse, that every time, when we release albums, something bad happens. It's happened on all the albums, something terrible has happened. This time, it was, the world that sort of started burning.
Yeah, this is crazy. But given how long it has taken you to write it and all this stuff, maybe you should, create a documentary about it. Just throwing it in there.
Exactly.
It would be fun. A very long documentary, but it would be fun to watch.
Yeah. No, we should have filmed something during this year.
Yeah,
so we could release this kind of thing. From sort of the rise towards a new album or something like that. Yeah,
absolutely. But you mentioned actually there a theme kind of that is going throughout the album, and since I do not actually speak Swedish, do you mind shining some light on Finntroll albums are known for having a theme, or just a bunch of themes going through them. Can you shed some light on what's going on in this one particularly?
Well, there's of course we have this musical theme, but we also have the lyrical theme.
Yes.
And Vredesvävd, it sort of loosely translates to Vredesvävd or like woven in anger or something like that, and that sort of refers to the theme of the lyrical theme of the album, because I wouldn't call it a concept album, and many of the Finntroll albums are not like a concept album, like per se. It's more like that they have a theme for the album, and this is what we write on this album. But this album, so the anger I was mentioning there, and all these different stories on the album are connected to some kind of journey to, if it's like, it is, both journeys that you take, you travel, for example, to do something, or you do a spiritual journey as well. So there are different kind of journeys. And all these journeys, they are sort of connected to wrath or hatred or something like that. And for example, the opening track of Döda Medelsten is a song about vengeance, for example. Guy that travels to seek vengeance, for example. So then that's why these stories are sort of Vredesvävd, that's where the name.
Yeah, makes sense. And speaking about the the intro track especially, I have a confession to make for you, man. I'm a huge Tolkien nerd. Like, I'm not even a fan, I'm a nerd, man. But and given that Tolkien's world and languages have been vastly affected by the Finnish folklore and the Finnish language itself, right? I mean, I kind of always associated Finntroll with the Tales of Middle Earth. I know it's not exactly right, and there's no direct maybe correlation, all the time, but this is just how it is and how my mind works. And then someone actually from the fence, I do a shout out on the internet, and people throw in questions usually, right, before the interview, pointed out that the intro track sounds somewhat reminiscent of the Isengard theme for Lord of the Rings movies. So has that been done like an allusion in some way, or is just like happened to be so?
Well, no, it hasn't been done, sort of to resemble Isengard, the Isengard theme or anything. But I've heard actually the same thing.
Oh, really?
People are talking about. But it's when we made it, we wanted to have something really like cinematic in the beginning, something to set the mood. And for example, Trollhorn is a big fan of big movie scores. So he took inspiration, of the sort of like the sound world of these big movie scores. So of course there's something there. Of course there's also like Conan the Barbarian is really present somehow in there as well. But the melodies and everything, they are connected to the album also. So you can sort of feel that later when you listen to the album, you will sort of feel some of the melodies coming back again, but within the songs. So this is sort of, the intro is sort of made to set a mood for what's coming. So yeah, it's a little bit stupid, that nowadays you have to release the singles, because we should have released, the intro with the singles as well. So
that is true.
Be right. Yeah, and it sort of destroyed the idea of setting a mood and then being surprised what's coming, and to make the listeners be in the sort of right mood to listen to this album. But hey, that's how it works nowadays. But yeah, definitely there's some big movie scores in there. But not of course we didn't rip them off or something, but we made it in the style of John Williams or something like that.
Exactly, and I did not mean it as a rip-off, or even it's just a reminiscence or illusion of some way, right, of some sort. You've also traditionally for Finntroll used a bunch of folk instruments, obviously on this record, and especially like on the intro to Vredesvävd. That one, it sounded amazing. Honestly, this is my favorite maybe track from the album, and just like the way it sounds is just perfect. What are these instruments called, man, if you don't mind, and how did you record them? Was that an actual recording or just a MIDI plugin, or how did it all work?
Well, most actually on this album we actually decided to go the digital way with lots of it, because sometimes these plugins and you're trying to mimic the real thing, and it doesn't really go all the way to the real thing. So we usually we sort of prefer to have a name a little bit plastic. So we actually, lots of the instruments are actually played with like 80s and 90s keyboards on this album, to have that that you have that a little bit like old old black metal-ish feel to the album. But yeah, there's for example the real stuff that in there is actually violin played by Olli Vanska from Turisas. He's played the real violin all over the album, so that's something that's really cool, and he's actually done it for at least the last 3 albums.
And he's done an incredible job on this one, I gotta tell you, man. It sounded amazing. Yeah,
definitely. And I really like his style of playing, and it's so easy to work with him, because you just tell him, what kind of feel we want this. Well, we want like Irish feel or something like that, and then he plays it in with the Irish feel. So yeah, the only real stuff that is in there actually is the violin. The rest is done with mostly like 80s and 90s old keyboards.
Yeah, but you mentioned that the 80s and 90s old keyboards were kind of made to reminiscent the older black metal sound, right? And there's on this album, speaking of its sound, right, there's clearly some influence of the old the symphonic black metal stuff, what were the biggest, maybe inspirations or influences, for you? And I guess it's a very long time, during the 7 years of writing. But maybe
Well,
any particular
yeah.
names or bands or anything?
Yeah, well, as I said before, we are always looking for some kind of twist or some kind of a theme to go through the music as well, not only the lyrics. On the Niflwind album, it was the big orchestrations that we had. On the Vredesvävd album, we had this brass section that was sort of present through the album. But this time, it's actually the new twist was sort of going back in time a bit to do this kind of end of 90s black metal era. And of course, there's a lot of inspiration from, like Old Emperor, Timo Borgir's Enthroned Darkness Triumphant is really in there. And not to mention, a band called Troll that's from Norway, if you remember that one.
Yeah, I remember vaguely. I never actually been a fan of them, but I do.
Yeah, if you listen to the album Vredesvävd, you will definitely hear some of the familiar sounds, Okay. But for example, those bands were really a big inspiration for this record. And, it's due to me and Trollhorn, of course, we grew up listening to melodic or like a symphonic black metal in the 90s and already a little bit into 2000s. So we decided that this would be the theme for this album to do sort of like a nostalgic album.
This is pretty cool, but despite it being kind of nostalgic and again reminiscent of that era, it is not really old sounding. It's a very modern feel it has to it, and it's clearly a 2020 album, not the end of the 90s album.
Yeah. Well, we didn't, of course, we didn't. We're not gonna, record the guitars with a potato or something like that. But so when we had a good studio, but for example, when we thought, for example, guitar sounds, the first the guy that produced the album, he really wanted really modern guitar sound for the album, well, because it's 2020, but it didn't, it didn't fit our views of the guitar sound. So we sort of tweaked it into sounding a little bit more, towards the 90s, but still, using state-of-the-art kind of equipment to record it, to mix it, So we had actually really good amplifiers and everything to record a bit, but we just tweak those a little bit, away from the modern stuff. But yeah, the production is very modern, and that was also the idea. But there's some sort of, like little tributes to the 90s. But also doing that kind of album would have, if we would have gone full, black metal album or something like that, that would also have probably pissed off so many of our new, fans. So we wanted, to have that kind of Jaktensteed, not fat album kind of feel to it, but still also have stuff for, so sort of like my era of Finntroll fans in there as well, So there's a little bit for both worlds in here.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. And if you would have to choose one, do you have a favorite song from the album?
It's definitely the opening track at Vredesvävd. And that was also the track that I told you about. When we found that sound that we wanted to that we really opened up everything and we knew what to write, and that was the song. That sort of it was sort of the icebreaker for the album, and it's still my favorite on that. Well, Force and also this little slower track we did the animated video for. That's also one of my top tracks out there. But I'd say Vredesvävd is the one I'd choose.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. That's pretty cool. I'm conscious of your time, so just a couple of more questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
That's good. You just announced yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, some shows in Europe. Finally, congrats. Maybe I'll catch you on the road again too, as well.
Yeah.
This spring. The question is the following. I mean, what do you think? Do you think we will get back to normal life by then, and it will be like a regular metal show, or there will be like a bunch of restrictions over there?
Well, this is something that we can only speculate in. But this tour, I'm really hoping that it's going to happen, because we were actually supposed to be on it right now.
Yeah.
That was the plan, that we would have gone in, I think it was mid-September, and then we would have been on tour until end of this month.
Mhm.
And so we would probably be around halfway through the tour right now. And yeah, so we had to cancel it before it was even released. So at that point, in the, I think it was midsummer, late spring or something, when we had to cancel it, we needed to just throw out some dates, and sort of a goal where to put, and sort of anticipate how the coronavirus is going to go. So actually at that point we said that, yeah, let's push it quite late, into March, April. And now actually March, April sounds that it could be a little bit too early. Actually.
It's not really late at all.
Yeah. So I really hope that we don't have to change it, any more times. I've seen some bands, the Finnish band Insomnium just announced a tour that they're going to do. I think it's November, December, and I'm afraid, that won't happen. That's quite optimistic, and yeah. Well, let's see. But I really hope that we can do it this time, and that we don't have to a third time to book it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really do hope that you and the other bands will be able to hit the road again, and hopefully you'll be able to include Kyiv, Ukraine as well there, so we don't have to travel anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And I have some friends in Ukraine that saying that it's a little bit of a problem right now if you want to travel over there as well. So
we just lifted the restrictions 2 days ago, so you're welcome to come.
Cool.
I'm not sure you will be able to play the concert though.
Yeah, let's hope. I really want to, because also we usually when we tour Ukraine, it's on the way to Russia or something. So I really hope that we can do a couple of shows actually. We could do in row a couple of countries over there in the more eastern parts.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great. Yeah, absolutely, man. Another fan question, which I was not aware of at all, but actually, a couple of people pointed this out, when someone wrote it. So on the Spotify version, and it's not related to this album at all, but on the Spotify version of the reissue of Natford album, right, there was the song called Rock, but it got changed name to Vredesvävd, right?
Yeah.
And then in 2014, it got changed back to Rock again. What was that all about?
Well, I actually, I don't know, because I've seen those different versions, and I actually need to ask the guys what actually really happened, because on some of the early issues you can see it, and I think, that Vredesvävd, that it was probably some kind of I'd say like a working title or something like that. Because all the versions I've seen, on all the CDs and all the vinyls, it says Rök. So, but on the promo, it actually says Vredesvävd. So I need to check what's up with that.
All right, maybe you can text me later.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool, man. All right, the last question. There's something we usually do by the end of this episode. But one crazy story from you, one crazy touring story, one show that got stuck in your head, or one night, that you were on stage that you can remember. Anything that you think is legal, more or less, and you can share with us.
Yeah, definitely. This is usually like really hard to come up with, like on the spot. But now when I'm actually talking to people in Ukraine, I will tell you a story about the first time we actually played in Ukraine.
Oh, nice.
That was it was really something, because we came a day early on to that gig. It was a festival. I don't remember the name, but it was in Kiev, a little bit outside the city.
Yeah.
And the first day it went on like it should. We went there to see some bands. I think Arch Enemy was playing, and we were hanging around, and so everything was good. We had nice hotels, and the day after we go back to the festival, because it's our day. We're going to go during the day to check it out. Everything is going, and when we're coming to the festival, everybody is like, they're tearing down the PA system already. So we're like, what? Well, all right. Maybe they're just changing something, or so. The driver, he threw us to our backstage, and we sat down in the backstage. opened up a beer and just sat around, and we were starting to hear rumors that the festival is cancelled.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So actually, they were tearing down the PA and they tore down everything. And then we heard that they didn't pay the PA company, for the festival. So we were really disappointed, and we were stuck in the middle of nowhere, outside Kiev. And so, luckily we got hold of some kind of driver that could come and pick us up. But first, we had a interpreter with us, and we asked if there's somewhere we can go play in a club or something in the city that would take us. So he said, yeah, he made some calls, and we actually got a venue that was actually willing to take us. And it was also the first time or like in a long time that Rotting Christ hadn't played over there. Mm-hmm. So they were really let down. So we asked them as well if they want to join, and we did a Finntroll Rotten Sound evening over there in a club, and it was so packed. Yeah, and we wrote these big signs that we put up all over the festival area, because there were people still in there, fans there, and that tell everyone that we're playing a club show. And I think the capacity was like 300 for the show, and I think there were over 600 tickets sold, so it was really terrible. But yeah, it was a cool evening, and it was a really nice gig. It was full of people, and it was it was great feeling, But yeah, that's how we played the first time in Kiev.
Wow, this is a great story. I think I lived over in the US by that point, but I would have been there most likely.
Yeah, I don't remember which year this was. It was probably 2010 or something like that, maybe. Yeah.
That's when I was in the US. Yeah, that's fine. Actually, any plans on tour in the US? After the pandemic?
Well, the plan was already, to start booking US tours for next year or 2021, but right now we don't know, where it's gonna take us. With the situation over there, it's pretty terrible right now. So
absolutely,
I'm not sure if bands even from Europe are gonna be able to make it next year even. So but as I said in many times before, people asking, it seems like everything right now is like half a year late at least. Yeah. So US is definitely on the menu, but we need to see the Corona situation, how it evolves.
Absolutely.
Before we can say anything, but there are plans. There are plans to come over there. So
yeah. Just so you know, a lot of DMs about the US tour as well. So just make sure you make over there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a good one this time as well. We're gonna have been in the US. Well, we went to the cruise. This year, 70,000 tons of metal, but we haven't had a proper tour in the US since 2013. So
after the previous album, absolutely. All right, perfect, Mathias. Thanks a lot for joining me. Thanks for your time. Any last message for the fans? Anything you want to share with them?
Well, I really want to point out to everyone that as soon as the borders open, we're going to be full on out there again. Finntroll is going to come with a really new big kind of show planned and everything, and I really hope to see you out there, and stay safe, everyone.
Perfect, and we hope to see Finntroll on the road once again, man. Perfect. Thank you for your time, and keep rocking, man.
Yeah, bye.